It's Johara. Welcome back to my channel, to the Witchy Reader. So I know this video is very, very late because it's at like the end of March, but I've had like a lot of trouble. Like there's a lot going on, and then really bad things, and then some good things because I moved. And so it's just been really hard to film. So I know this video is like extremely late, so I apologize for that. But I really want to finally do my best reads of 2024. So yes. So I have the list of my favorite reads of last year here. Do-do-do. They're in no specific order. I didn't put them like from my favorite to my least favorite, anything. These are just the books that I loved, absolutely loved from last year. And yeah, so I definitely highly recommend all of these. I do think most of these are, I definitely think most of them are indie, it looks like. So that sounds about right. um, so the first one I did put was One of Us Slime because it didn't just become one of my best reads of last year, it became one of my favorite reads, which is funny because it is a mystery, and I feel like I don't typically have favorite books that's not fantasy, except for Seekers. But and then again, I always say that, but then again, Seekers does technically have a little bit of a fantasy element with the fact that one of the characters is a shapeshifter, because that's not normal. But I have been getting into mystery, and I really, really badly want books that give off the same vibes as One of Us is Lying, because I fell in love with that, and I've been obsessed with it ever since I read it. So if you know any books that give off the same vibes as One of Us is Lying, please recommend them, and I will definitely check them out. And then Where the Heart Is by Ellie Lieberman. It is the third book in the Beast series. So she's writing the series out of order, which is very interesting because so you technically can read them in any order, or you can read them in chronological order. It really depends on you. But technically, out of the 4 books, only 3 of them are published right now. Where the Heart Is would technically be first based on the timeline because it's about Clary, who is the queen. So basically, B is about Ari and it's about the rebellion. I'm gonna try to do this with minimal spoilers, but this isn't much of a spoiler because it happens pretty early on. Henry, who is the runaway prince, meets Ari, and they end up finding this rebellion that's trying to overthrow the king. So, and in there's a couple like what I like to call like the ghosts, like they're like haunting the narrative. Like I know the Hunger Games just came out, people are talking about how Lucy Gray always ends up haunting the narrative, and I definitely feel like Clary and Sarah haunted the narrative of B because they both it's like you could feel their presence even though they weren't there. Sarah, nobody knows what happened to her, if I remember correctly. Been a minute since I read B, and I kind of want to reread it because it has been a minute. And I absolutely love that book. And then Clary, it mentions died. I don't think they gave you her name though. They just call her the queen. I don't think you find out her name until the third book. But anyways, and then An Impossible Dream, which came before B, because it's about Sarah. So you meet her, you find out about her, and you find out what happens to her because it's the last year, I think, if I remember correctly, had to do during the events of B. And then Where the Heart Is comes after that, and it's before An Impossible Dream. Part of it is, and then part of it is during An Impossible Dream, and then it ends right before B because like right before B happened, Clary died. I don't know if that's much of a spoiler because like it's mentioned in the very first book that she was dead, so you always knew that she was gonna die. I kind of do a similar thing with my current series because like you know that this one character is gonna die because this is a prequel series, so you knew she was gonna be dead all along because of the main series. So, but you still end up falling in love with her and her relationship, so it makes it so it still ends up being hard even though you know it's happening. And that's how Clary was. It was like you knew it was gonna happen because it was stated in B that she is dead, but it still ended up being really hard because you fall in love with her because she's amazing and kind, and yeah. And I also liked getting to see Elspie, who you meet in I almost said B. No, you meet her in An Impossible Dream. I like getting to see her when she's first brought to the castle as a servant because when she's already there in An Impossible Dream because it mostly follows there, so you get to see Elspie when she's younger, and it's just So sweet, and I really like Elsie. But anyways, yeah, I went on a little bit of rant because I absolutely love this series. This has become one of my favorite series, and I do have a couple reviews lined up for a couple indie books because I haven't been able to film, and one of them will be Where the Heart Is, so there will be a full length review that will probably get kind of spoilery soon. I also have another one for Cowboys and Queens, and I want to talk about the One of Us is Lying book to TV adaptation. So look for those because those will be coming eventually. Hopefully, I can do them soon. But even though we have finally moved, like there's still so much we have to do and get furniture. Like I still have to do so much for my rooms. I'm staying in my mom's room right now, so it's really hard to film and stuff. So hopefully I can do it soon, but no promises. But those reviews will come eventually. Okay. Anyways, moving on. There's The Towers of Nine by Alyssa Louted. I hope I'm saying her name wrong. Right, I'm always afraid I'm saying her name wrong. But and the sequel book, the Dragon Tower, I think that is what the second book's called. I haven't read her third or fourth book in her series yet, but I want to. But because so much craziness has been happening, it's been hard to read. But I'm finally catching up. I'm better reading a couple books, so I hope to once I am done with the book authors have sent me that I can get to that. So, because I absolutely loved the first two books, they were so amazing. I love Seraphina. I love all the characters. Honestly, Seraphina and Feathers are probably my favorites. And I don't even know if I can tell you why. Seraphina's just really awesome, and Feathers, I don't know. He's just, even though he has a bit of an edge, and he's still like just this like sweet guy, and I just really love him. And Seraphina is Arrow Ace, which I absolutely love the representation because you don't see it that often, sadly. And I absolutely love the friendships because there is some romance because there's like side romances like with other characters. Obviously, Seraphina doesn't have a romance, but um, I love the friendship because that is the main thing, the friendship between the people in Dragon Tower. I mean, it gives off a little Harry Potter vibes because there's this magic school and then you get chosen into a tower. There's, crap, how many towers are there? There's like several. There's more than four, like the Hogwarts houses. But the tower chooses you, and Dragon Tower. Nobody has lived in there for like 100 years because they are extremely picky, and um, usually only one or two people get chosen a year, if even that. And they decided that nobody will be in Dragon Tower unless at least five people get chosen because they don't want to, because you're supposed to have like this community in your tower and they don't want like one or two people being stuck in that tower all by themselves. So there's that rule. But then for the first time in like 100 years, five people were chosen, exactly five, which was the minimum they said. So after doing some investigation, making sure getting Dragon Tower safe, they ended up uh letting them stay in Dragon Tower. And it's really cool, like it's haunted, like there's this ghost, and I'm pretty sure you learn about more about her in the fourth book, or no, fifth book, which I think the one that she's writing right now. She's been on my most recent writing sprints I did, my live writing sprints, and I'd want to do another one with her and Ellie because that was so much fun. But I'm so I'm excited to learn more about that ghost, and there's just so much mystery, like who put the curse on Seraphina, because somebody put a curse on her, which is why she can't use her magic, which is why she didn't know for a long time she even had magic, despite her mom being magical. And it's just so interesting, so many mysteries that I'm trying to discover, and it's so good. And like I said, I absolutely love the friendships. Friendships is my favorite part. And whenever there is a book that focuses more on friendships, like B did that too with Ari and Henry's friendship. And I just love when it does focus more on friendship than romance. I don't mind romance, and I do like a lot of romance. Like I love Sarah and Fra and stuff, but I do love friendship more, and I feel like it's just not shown enough. And there's romances I love in Towers of Nine as well. But I absolutely love whenever it does. Um, focus on friendships, because I just feel like it's not done enough, and friendships can be just as important, if not more. And I absolutely love the friendship that these five people have, as well as Angelina, because she's kind of becoming like she's really close to them despite not being in Dragon Tower and not understanding their ways. Because there needs to be a teacher that says because dragons, because every time something happens or they do something and Angelina questions, she's like because dragons, because they're the dragons, because they're Dragon Tower. And it's like you'll understand if you read it, but it's just really funny because that's just their excuse for anything they do at this point, because for the dragons. And it's just really hilarious. I absolutely love it. So yeah, that definitely should be a t-shirt. So yeah, and so definitely highly recommend this series. Well, I highly recommend every book I'm talking here because they were my favorites of the year. So the Mantis Synchronicity. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that wrong. But it was what, the fifth book in the Mantis Clan series, I believe. I better read it, and it's a horror series. So basically, I talked about this series before in my channel. I'm not sure if I've done a review for this one, so that might be on my list of reviews. I honestly have to look, and I have to write a video of. But in it, basically, there's this like mantis part of your brain that only some people have, and they give you like superpowers. But people like that are also kind of deemed as awful, and there's people that's trying to kill them because they think they're inhuman. And then there's also people, they're called shifts, and there's biological shifts where you end up, your body ends up transforming. Like there's a girl who I absolutely love her. She's amazing, who looks kind of lizard-like and stuff. So and it's also a found family story. There is some romance, like there's the Mystic and his husband. They're amazing. The lizard girl I was talking about, Lahari, she is their daughter, and they are like so helpful with like all the shifts. You even meet Auntie Peg and Dot, who are drag queens, and they have this like shelter for like kids who need help. I think they're mostly shifts or biological shifts who were like disowned or whatever because they were deemed to be inhuman or whatever. And it's just so adorable. But I absolutely love the friendships and found families. In the first book, you meet Agrel. She was my favorite. I'm so sad. But there's also Dozy, and there's so many characters, and that you meet as the book goes on. You get to meet them, and they somehow end up finding this group and become part of the family. And then there's also, really evil characters who are trying to kill the shifts and biological shifts, and there's some of them like Lahari end up joining a group who was trying to get back at them and kill them because they're trying to kill them, and it was just really good. It is a horror book. It does get pretty gruesome and stuff. There's a little cannibalism because if you want to steal their powers, you can eat that mantis gland of their brain, so that is a little cannibalistic of them. But yeah, so it's just really good. And the fifth one I absolutely loved. Highly, highly recommend. And like I said, I need to make a list of the books I haven't reviewed yet so that I can review them, because I do want to review them. I love reviewing indie books. I love to bring a light to indie books as much as I can. So the books I have not reviewed yet will get reviewed once I can. So definitely to keep an eye out for those. There's The Sun and the Star. That was the newest Percy Jackson book. The one about Nico and Will. And I just found out the other day when I was hanging out with my friend who also loves the Percy Jackson books that that they're making a sequel to this kind of sequel. It has to do with Nico and Will as well as Hazel, and I'm very excited for that. But The Sun and Star was so good. They're in the underworld, and I love seeing more of Nico and Will. I feel like you don't see them enough. You didn't get much of them in the actual books because they were never like part of the like main story. Like you saw them sometimes like at the end of Here's Olympus and a little bit in Trials of Apollo. But I love having a book just about them going on adventure. Yes, they had some issues they had to work out because Nico is Nico and they're very opposites, but they definitely work it out in the end and they're so adorable and I absolutely love them. So definitely check it out. Um, Oathkeeper, on the other hand, which is also by Ellie Lieberman. I've read like all of her books except for her newest one, which she just published. Have not got to it yet. And then she also sent me a copy of one of her newest books that for me to better read, which I'll be getting to in the next few days. So yes, so I read all her books. She's definitely become one of my favorite authors. Definitely check her out. But Oathkeeper, on the other hand, was so good as well. It mostly had to do with this guy and his sister, and they go on this adventure with this. They had this funny banter with this with the what was she, a teller, or I forgot what they called her. I think it was something like that. It's been a minute since I read the book, but they had this like banter because they didn't really like each other that much, but she got along with his sister, and then they had to go on this adventure anyway, this journey anyway, so they were kind of forced with each other. But I do think they end up having a mutual respect for each other by the end. But it was really interesting, and I absolutely loved it. I love the relationship between him and his sister, and how he would do anything for her. And the fights were pretty good, and I just highly, highly recommend. Another great book. Um, so Chronically Ill, Chronically Beat Me by Lucy D. Rose. I've read all of her books too. She writes poetry, which I don't typically read poetry, but she's so good at it. And this one was so good because this one has to do with talking about like chronic pain and chronic illness. Like you can't really see it, but it's like there, and how it feels because she does have chronic pain, and um she's honestly one of the closest people I like. One of the people I'm closest to. Like I talk to her like every single day, and she's absolutely amazing. I love talking to her. I love being her friend. Like she's amazing, and I just feel so bad for her because like I hate that she has to go through this chronic pain. And reading this book, I think everyone should read this book because it's a great way to. I mean, I don't think you'll ever be able to understand what it's like for somebody that has to deal with this, but you can like sympathize with it more. Like you can understand it more so that you can be like helpful to them and for people with chronic pain and stuff. And I just think it's very important for everyone to read people with chronic pain so they know they're not alone, and people without so that they can like help and whatever. And definitely an important read in my opinion. Then there's Solving for X, another book by Ellie Lieberman, which this one has to do with the zombie apocalypse, and that was really fun. And there was some sad scenes because it's a zombie apocalypse, so obviously there are deaths and such. And it was really good, and I feel like very should definitely everyone should read it. A lot of I think how many pages are in it? I think there's only like about maybe 70 to 100 pages, so it's like a short book, but it's definitely worth the read. Um, These Witches Don't Burn. Uh, that that was a duology. The second book is called This Coven Won't Break, and it's really good. So it's about Megan and no, it's about Hannah. I don't remember which one was the main character, but there is a sapphic relationship, so that's a lot of fun. And there is some sad things because I know at the end of the first book, I think it was her dad ended up dying, and the second book, I was listening to the audiobook at work because you could do that in my old job, and you could listen to music, or listen to audiobooks, whatever. So I was listening to the audiobook, and I ended up having to stop it and turn on music because I was literally about to cry because like the second book really delves into her grief about losing her dad, and it made me think about my dad, which I'm still having a hard time losing because that was like towards the beginning of last year, so it would have only been like a yearish since he passed at that point, and I'm still having a hard time with it, and so I ended up having to stop and because it was just a little too much, and I took a break. Um, Still a really good book. It just really made me sad and a little too emotional. and I really didn't want to cry at work while reading a book. So I was like, yeah, I need to take a break from this. but but yeah, but it's really good because like there's like these things happening and like they're targeting witches, and I think they suspect humans at first, but then I think it ends up being like other witches. Like I said, I read this at the beginning of last year, so it's been like a year since I read this. But yeah, and I really like the sapphic relationship. It was so sweet. She does have to deal with a toxic ex, which is made, which is mentioned at the very beginning. But then she meets this girl who is really sweet and stuff, and it's exactly what she needed. And then St. Juniper Sprawley was a little bit different than what I typically read, I feel like. It was kind of a paranormal situation. So basically, this boy is trapped in this house and he cannot leave. And that was Jamie. Yeah, Jamie's the one that was trapped. Okay. And then Theo meets him. He ends up like seeing this boy trapped in this house, so ends up going there. And then he ends up also going. I can't remember the girl's name, but he ends up finding her because she's a witch, and they needed help and stuff. And yes, there's a romance between Theo and Jamie. Really adorable romance. And so yeah. And so the three of them become friends. There's a romance with Theo and Jamie, and they have to try to summon the spirit, talk to them, figure out why they're trapping Jamie. And then it was kind of interesting how you find out why he was actually trapped. I don't want to spoil that because I feel like that's a bit of a spoiler, but it was really interesting, and I did not see that coming. It was definitely a twist, and I highly recommend checking it out. Like, it was very interesting, and I would never have figured that in a million years. um, and okay, so next is Cowboys and Queens, which is the sequel to Squeak, and I was recently sent it. The author sent it to me. If I can grab it. Send me a copy that's signed. So yay. I don't think I've done a review for this one yet. I think I mentioned that earlier in the video that I need to do a review for this. So like I said, I have to go through my channel, figure out what videos I haven't reviewed, what books I haven't reviewed, and review them. So like I said, if I haven't reviewed the indie book yet, I definitely will. So just give me some time. But yeah, I definitely love this book. It was so interesting. I'm actually currently reading the third book, which was sent to me by the author via email. So I'm currently reading that. I think I'm about halfway done with it. And like I said, I need to read that and read Ellie's latest book she sent me. And Adam, who's the author of the Mantis Clan series, also sent me some books I need to read. So yeah. So that's fun. A lot to read. But then once I'm done reading all the books that were sent to me via email, I want to finish the Towers of Memory series via KU, which is where I'm currently reading them. And I will eventually buy them myself because I like having physical copies. But right now it's just easier to read via KU until I can get money because I do not have money. But eventually, all these indie books, which I'm reading through KU, I do want to buy because I do like having the physical book. I do like rereading them because I do reread a lot, and I love tabbing my books as well. So yeah, because sometimes the way I feel with it about tabbing is because I don't like writing my book. I don't have anything against if you want to write in your book and highlight stuff, but I do like tabbing them because like if you want to rewatch your favorite scene or whatever from a movie or TV show, usually it's pretty easy to find whether it's on YouTube or if you can just find the episode it's on, then you can go to the episode and whatever. It's pretty easy to watch just one scene or stuff, but if you like are just really want to reread one specific scene that you just really like, it's hard to do because you have to try to find it, which could take forever, and then you end up having to reread the entire thing just to read the one scene you want to read. But if you tab it, then you can easily find it because I color coded, so it's like fight scenes here, magic scenes here. There's like romance scenes, friendship scenes, and they're all different colors, so I like can just easily find it if I don't want to reread the entire book at the time. But then sometimes I also want to reread the entire thing, so yeah. It just depends on my mood, to be honest. But anyways, moving on. But yeah, so that book is really good. Because the first book was only in Celeste's point of view. This one, I'm pretty sure ends up going into others' point of view. You also get a little bit more into Gary. Gary's even more in the third book, and then you also meet Reggie, who's you're really getting into in the third book as well. So it's really interesting, and like Celeste and Sean had like this thing going on in the first book, and then this one that gets more into Kathy and Tex as well. Plus, I love the friendships between everyone; it's so sweet, and yeah, definitely highly recommend. See. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder and the sequel, Good Girls Bad Blood. I read for the first time. I really enjoyed it. I didn't like it as much as One of Us Lying, even though these books are very much more popular. I did very enjoy it though because it did make this list. Both books were really interesting, and I also watched the TV show that came out because I read it like shortly before it came out, or like I was reading it as it ended up going on Netflix, so I was trying to hurry up and finish it so I can finish the first book so I can watch the first season. And I don't remember if I end up doing a video talking about the book and the season. If not, I'm gonna have to look on my channel and see if I have. Because if I haven't, then I want to do that. Because there is one change. I mean, there's a few changes like I'm not sure I like, and there's one thing that they did not add in the show, which I think was a mistake. Because I feel like that scene is very important in the book, but I never hear anyone else talk about how important this scene actually is. But I think it's very, very important. So I want to talk about it. So I'm gonna. So I don't even know if I did that video though. So I need to look at it because I have no idea. um, and then there's Society Funlings, which. Okay, sorry. Society Funlings, which was Ellie Lieberman's first book, I think she said, and I thought it was so good. I feel like it was so relevant, and I feel like there's just so many messages and themes that can be relevant to today with everything going on, and the way that they were like I just feel like I don't want to spoil too much. Like it can be very hard for me because I can be a very spoilery person, but I don't like to spoil things for other people because I also don't like to be spoiled. So, like in my reviews, I always say like these are going to be spoilery, so do not watch if you have not read and you do not want to get spoiled. But then there's in videos like these, I don't want to get too spoilery because it's supposed to be like an overview without getting too much into detail, which can be hard for me. Um, but yeah, I just feel like it can be very relevant and very, I feel like just very important, the themes and messages and stuff. And I definitely think everyone should read this book. Like, I know people's always like, oh, what's that? What's the book you think everyone should read? And most times they talk about classics, which I'm not a big fan of classics. I don't think I've ever really read a classic, and I have no desire to read any of those classics that are considered classics. But I definitely think this is a book that everybody needs to read. I definitely think it's that important. So yes, definitely check out all these books on this list. I think that was the last book I had on this list. Yes. So please like and subscribe and comment if you read any of these, if you want to read any of these, if I managed to convince you to put any of these on your TBRs. And I will chat with you guys below in the comments. Until next time.